All right. I hope this is a helpful endeavor. Years ago, so 2003, I did the Appalachian Trail. Here's the guidebook that I highlighted for my mom. Just, maybe I'll be here, maybe I'll be here. And her notes are in it. Actually arrived at this time. Didn't actually stop here. Meeting him at this time. But here's the guidebook. Eventually I picked up Bruce Wingfoot's famous guidebook when I got home after I had hiked the trail and saw lots of things that would have been helpful. But this is just simply the data book from 2003. And here's some insoles that started the trail. I walked most of it in a Leona Divide Montrail shoe. They are no more. I think Columbia bought them. Ended the trail with just like cheap Adidas, like basically, like a running shoe like this, really minimal. Probably wasn't good for me, but the Leona Divide, had that dense foam and a plate. So these days, ultras are obviously, a better go, and the zero drop. I really appreciate being 40 now. And so anyway, footwear, guidebook. What I want to do is not tell you the weight of everything. Okay, we're just going to set that over here. But generally say that when I started the AT, I was a bit of an anomaly. I remember a guy named Applejack that had the same pack, the Go Light Breeze, which is a Ray Jardine design. I had read Beyond Backpacking, and I took the mesh back off. Applejack still had the mesh back, so you could dry things. But generally what I want to do is take you through my ultralight kit. I think back then people were like, wait, you don't have a stove? Wait, you don't have a tent? Like, what are you doing out here? Eventually I sent my sleeping bag back, just had a bivvy. But it was around 5 pounds, okay? And certainly tried to minimize the weight of this stuff sack with shoulder straps. And it ends up at 12 ounces, down from what it was with the mesh back and, more straps. And the PU coating, is going inside of it. But here it is. This is the same pack. And you'll notice my kit now, which is over here, is very similar. There's weight reduction, certainly based on fabric, based on just, temperature, choice of sleeping bag, let's say. But the pattern is the same. There's kind of the same setup, which was it's been revealing to me, kind of being on YouTube occasionally, trying to figure something out when I buy a new piece of gear and seeing like, oh, wow, this super ultralight or extra ultralight thing, people are still doing this. This is exciting. It's kind of my way of doing backpacking. But I think in 2003, Ray Jardine and his disciples kind of had arrived at a point, and weight reductions have only really been in the 1 pound range since then, and it's mostly been based on fabric. So anyway, I want you to see a connection between then and now. I'm seeing that connection and learning from it, and it's fun. So here's the gear I took on the AT. So the Go Light Breeze. I ended up with this guy. I was hiking with a guy named Tucker eventually after about 1,000 miles, and he had one of these, or maybe I had one, he bought one, but it was the MSR titanium kettle. You could boil stuff in it. Because I eventually ditched the stove, I could just kind of put this on the side of a fire and get some water going if I wanted something hot. But very light, a good solo thing. I use this when I take my kids, when my wife and I take our kids out, 11 and 7. This is just a great thing to boil water in, but I haven't used it much besides, the family camping stuff. So, one of those. This is the way I purified water. I think people still do this. It's basically bleach. There's still a little bit in there. I've bought them over the years. Found one at a secondhand store and had to show them that it had expired in 2008. But alas, water purification, and along with water, I was in a very wet year in 2003. All I carried was this, not this exact one, but a liter 0.5, I think, platypus. And it's right on the side of the pack. Never had trouble getting water. Integral Designs 5.7 sil nylon tarp, 7 ounces or so. This thing didn't get a lot of use. I did a lot of shelters on the AT, but it was useful in a pinch, stealth camping, but it's still what I take solo. So I'm going to put this actually back here because I still use it. Here's why I'm laughing. I mean, the Western mountaineering 1 pound, you know, back then, could you even do 8,000 or 800 fill? This was the lightest bag I could find. And it's held up so well. It's the Western Mountaineering Highlight, you know, half zip. I used it like a quilt before people were making quilts. I'm sure there were some quilts back then, but still just an awesome bag. My wife uses this one for our trips. 1 pound. I bought it from the shop Bivouac, where my sister worked in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and still just a beautiful piece of gear. Notice the purple, okay? Notice the purple. But it was too warm, so I ended up with just this Bibler Bivy. It's 7 ounces. It's Epic fabric, so it's sil nylon coated threads, and then it's woven together. Very breathable. Still beads water great. 7 ounces, again, nice made in US product. I've used this as a sleeping bag, as a shelter since I got it, or a winter bivvy, for 20 plus years. And it's still one of those pieces of gear that I'm reluctant to let go of. I may be replacing it soon, but I'm going to put that in the still using it. When I use that, I use a bug net too. But the tarp bivvy combo is still a fave. Back in the day, I had something like this. It was just black and not merino. It was synthetic. This is a merino guy. I just love this when you go to bed. And merino just does so well. Buddy Rich got me this one. It's the -33 merino, real lightweight. It's something that's carried over. Kit-wise, or excuse me, you know, what I was wearing, I didn't actually own this at the time. This is one of those old Capilene, you know, thermal layers. I think mine was dual fold, but same idea, very thin, but tight fitting, you know, quarter zip. I use this for running in the winter. I live in Minnesota now. That's what that's for, but that's no longer. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. So I had a blue Marmot Precip about this weight, right? This is a Patagonia equivalent. About 10, 12 ounces was what the Precip was. And that got a lot of use. Again, a wet year. Okay, to the pad. And before I expose the pad, the trash compactor bag, the actual one that I used on the AT has lasted 20 years. At Eastern Mountain Sports, we bought a roll of these and just distributed them. I don't think it has a hole in it, but trash compactor bag, non-scented. These are hard to find now. And the Mount Washington pad. This is the lightest pad I could find that was actually comfortable. And I cut it down, you know. It was 5.5 ounces, so it's a little bit less than that. But it gave structure to the pack, too. If you can see now, this is just a droopy stuff sack with amazing shoulder straps. But that was a little more than 3/4 length. After I cut it down, but I could use the pack under my feet, and then the ubiquitous titanium spork. Put that over there. Retire it. All right. So that's the stuff. This is the stuff I really feel like I've really held on to, clutching. But over here, okay, we're at 10 minutes. Can I go through it in 5? Over here, I still carry this, like why not? But I've graduated to these smart water bottles. I probably have the same weight and stickers on this one, but or smart water, yeah, bottles. Um, I'm a teacher. I often carry one of these in my back pocket as I'm walking around for lunch duty or whatever. They're so light, and I love that they share. So those are ubiquitous now for folks. I've gone from something like, the Snow Peak, and you can get a nice little lid from all sorts of places on this, and the pop can stove to from the Pocket Rocket to this guy, the BRS. But when I'm going solo, I'm cold soaking these days. So I typically use my stickered Maranatha one. This is held up really well, but you can't put boiling water in them. So I did invest in something like this. No stickers on it yet. But here's one way to look at my setup is, it's kind of modular, at this point. I can bring a little Tokes mug, especially if I'm bike packing, and have all that cold soaking stuff too, and throw the stove in there. But anyway, when I'm doing it by the book and all by myself, this illustrates it pretty well. You go from this titanium thing that you think you need, and it's like 3 times as heavy, and you just go back to this Lexan GSI, I think it is, yeah, spoon. This thing has had a good run. I'm always terrified it's gonna break, but look at that, perfect. Don't have to cut it off. Fits in the cup. So maybe I should start with pack, because that's where we're gonna notice some differences or similarities. So this is the Mountain Laurel Designs. I got this recently as all right, I'm retooling. How am I going to retool? And this one, instead of being 12 ounces, it is 7.5. I've taken all the stuff off of it. I can put on, a water bottle holder here, or this is my original water bottle holder from '03. But they sell something like that. I don't know. I often just strap things to the top, and reach back and take a drink of water. But having no pouches on the outside makes this really streamlined, but who knows, maybe I'll sew a little pouch here. But 7.5 ounces, something like that. Great shoulder straps, but very minimal. The fabric is a game changer. It's the Challenge fabric. It's kind of a sail material, where this over here is the 210, typical, ripstop Spectra. Good stuff, but heavy, obviously durable. Now at 40, this is kind of the Challenge. Okay, of course you get a new pack liner instead of this guy. It's kind of nice to see through it, I guess. Hopefully it lasts as long. But yeah, I've been doing this. I'm not afraid to say it. You find a good patch, you'll be okay. Otherwise, there's this 7 ounces, 1 ounce. But gosh, it doesn't really hold air that great. I've been largely disappointed with this. I didn't buy it. It was a gift. But yeah, that's a risky one, as people know by now. But it's there in the queue if it needs to be. But I'm going to go with this if it's just me. All right. There it is. Some purifying drops, some cord, the little Swiss Army, and a mini cold soaker. I can get by on, very little food. But also, I'm trying to figure out what the body needs. And yeah, I'm former, distance runner and triathlete. I I can eat a minimal amount and, make up for it in jerky or something like that. But that's cooking right there. And you don't want to forget this, but if you do, you can make do. Sometimes I purposely forget just to challenge myself with the leaves. But in here hides my, it's hard to confess, but it's just an emergency poncho. I love these things. And I bring it in lieu of just taking the 3-ounce Houdini. This is my, daily carry in life, 3 ounces, 4 ounces total. The combination is kind of great, and you often don't use this. You kind of just go through the muck and, dry off and figure it out, especially in 3-season summer hiking. But I've gone through a couple of these. This one's small. This one's a medium. I think this one must have shrunk or something. Anyway, I love these things. I'll give this one to my older son. It'll fit him well. There is the move. I had one of these for a while that replaced this Patagonia. And this is great. I still use this as much as possible. It's pretty light. It comes in around 8 ounces. But, this guy, which I got Pro Deal, is 5 ounces and much warmer. So you could take this and do your bivvy thing and not take a sleeping bag, but I do want to take a sleeping bag. So what I end up doing is active layer, nope, down. This is kind of daily stuff in life, nope. If I do bring it, it's gonna be something like this, just because I can shake it out and it's got great insulation, and I haven't totally converted to the new stuff, but pack liner. But here's the conundrum. So I got the Bibbler, which has no ventilation or anything. I cut out the zipper and cinch it up. And just recently I got a Catabatic bivvy, which has the mesh, and you can stake it out, kind of guy it out. It's 7 ounces. They're effectively the same exact weight. This one's just way more functional, but I haven't used it yet. So this is my new piece of kit, but this might get replaced by a bivvy that's the same weight. It just has, a place to stake it out on the top. It has, some guy lines for the pad. I think it's going to dry out pretty quick with Pertex fabric. Anyway, not quite replaced, but it's a good piece of gear. Now, again, notice the purple. So I went down to their factory a couple years ago because I got curious. What is this Minnesota-made ultralight gear and lightened equipment? I'm sure I can just drive in there and just ask them questions, and I did, and it was awesome. And ordered my kids 2 bags. My mom bought them for them for Christmas, so they got geared up. My mom's a big backpacker, but notice they had the purple, and I ended up with a 50 degree, where the Western Mountaineering, which was always too warm for me, again, sent it back on the Appalachian Trail, but since have hardly used it, unless it was winter camping. They moved the degree range to 35, even though it's the same bag, but it technically was a 40 when I bought it. This is a 50, and because I already have plenty of down stuff, I went with the synthetic version. This is the Enigma Apex 50 degree with 10D in and out, and it weighs 9 ounces. It's sad when I don't bring it because it's so light. But again, sometimes I'm sleeping so warm that I just end up with this. And it's a 2 ounce difference. They work great together. But I think what's going to happen is I'm going to have, where'd that thing go? Oh yeah. I'm going to have a bigger challenge. These two would work wonderful together. I'm going to have a challenge to convince myself to bring a legitimate tarp to put over me. But anyway, that's the kit. Some big similarities. Here's some, I guess, takeaways, because we're at 20 minutes. Things change, but mostly, they micro adjust, be it fabric, be it this is slightly lighter, or excuse me, this is slightly lighter than this, and it's see-through and it's convenient. This is slightly lighter than this. By that, actually, it's a lot lighter. I think about it. This is half the weight of this, right? But they function almost exactly the same. Something like this, versus something like this. They're close to the same weight, but you're getting more insulation or more heat out of this. It might even replace part of your sleep system. Ditching, almost the 1 pound rain jacket for something like an OR, helium 2 or something, or doing the poncho, windbreaker mix, you're saving a half a pound end of the day. Pads, maybe these are the exact same material, but you're just shaving off some material. I can live with that. I'm not a great sleeper, but pick your spot and deal with it. I wish this compacted a little bit more or served a little bit better as a frame sheet. But this is going to persist. Some things just don't go away. Water treatment, I always do chemical. What else? I think that's it. Thanks for listening to me jabber on. I might even note, I started to reread this guy. Gosh, it makes me so angry, but it's so funny and brings me back to some good times. So, thanks for listening. Peace.